Yeah, so it's same thing, DNS-based security. So you understand DNS security is sort of like content filtering, but it's just if you open up a browser, you go to www.abc.com, then the system will evaluate that to say, well, wait, what category does this fall into? And if it's inappropriate or blocked by policy, then it does not return the real IP address of that destination. This returns a page that says, no, you can't go here. Okay, make sense? So that's really important because it doesn't have to catch the traffic in motion. It stops it before it starts passing the traffic and keeps that threat away from your network. Make sense? Yeah. So we're going to do that same thing in here, but we got to build some objects before we can do our policy here. We're going to go to Objects and Object Management. We're going to add a sinkhole. Oh, I'm sorry. Over here in the navigation bar, find sinkhole. See all these different objects over here, tons of objects. But we're finding sinkhole in the vertical navigation bar. And then we're going to add a sinkhole. Okay? Everyone with me so far? Okay, so we're building these 3 sinkholes. And while you're putting these in, if you need help with these, just kind of lean in, or I can tell you. It's got an IPv4 and IPv6 address, and you can chuckle away at the humorous IPv6 addresses. So what a sinkhole is that when redirects them to just sort of this bit bucket when they're trying to go somewhere for these particular types of things. We're just defining objects at this point. We're not doing anything with them. But the dead dude, by the way, is 2 O's, not zeros. Or they're zeros, not O's. Yeah, right. So, and then so when it dumps it into sort of the bit bucket, if you will. Then when you're doing forensics, which hopefully you never need to, but if you need to, then it helps you find the source of the problem. So somebody on the inside going www.abc.com, oh, that's command and control. Okay, we're going to return them to this sinkhole and log it instead of just dropping it. So that gives you more ability to hunt down and say, why is this happening? Oh, I want to go to this endpoint and find out why they're trying to go to this place. So don't forget your types, command and control, malware, and phishing. We're going to drop. We're going to block connections to the sinkhole. That implies also logging. And then IP. And it doesn't really matter what the IP addresses are, just as long as they fit in there, right? And again, these are, keep in mind that people on the inside are going out, so you want them to be private addresses, not public addresses, if in fact you're using private addresses on your LAN. Here we go. So you just defined these sinkholes. Let's do something with them. We're going back to policies, and we're clicking on DNS now, the next one down the line. So policies and DNS, okay? When you get to DNS, you're going to see the dcloud DNS policy, and you're going to edit it. You want me to wait a minute? You want me to go ahead? Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to be too nosy here. So, all right, so we're going to do this, and we're going to come in here, and you're editing a policy, and then you're looking at the rules. So the rules in here, it's going to show you global block list for DNS, and block bad DNS. So click in that pencil. Click in the pencil to edit the block bad DNS rules, okay? So when it comes in here, how it'll be set initially, in this lab at least, is all of these sketchy categories lists are going to be over there already selected. By default, none of them are, by the way. So yeah, that's the dynamic, that's Talos identifying. It really does categorize everything on the planet, all these URLs, all these DNS, right? It's Cisco. It's huge, it can do that. But we don't want to do malware and phishing because we want to set up, and the other one is malware and phishing and CNC because we're going to set up specific policies for those. So just remove malware, phishing, and CNC. So you click OK on that one, and then we're going to add a rule to sinkhole CNC. So give it a name, call it sinkhole CNC. Action is sinkhole. You're selecting the sinkhole that you just defined, and you're only selecting DNS CNC. So that's saying if I categorize something as going to a malicious destination that is command and control, then we're going to dump that to this sinkhole and log it so we can do forensics later if need be. Oh, I didn't tell you need to click the DNS. I guess that would have been helpful. So click DNS, and then you can add that to that. So, and then just click Add to save that. And then guess what? We're going to do that again twice more. and we're going to do one for malware and one for phishing, and just pick the respective sinkholes and list and feeds for each of those. Again, you're on the DNS sort of tab. Forensics are important. It's one of those where you don't want to think about it, and you're like, I've invested in security. You can invest millions and millions in security, and it doesn't mean you're 100% secure, safe, right? If a bad guy is targeting you, they can get in if they're skilled enough, right? So forensics are important to scope, contain, remediate, right? How far along has it gotten? Let's scope it, and then let's remediate it, and you might need to call in a third party that's good at doing that sort of thing, unless you have your own SecOps team, right? So you're bringing in a third party, and they're going to say, show me your logs. And if you say, what logs? They're going to say, okay, thanks. Good luck. Restore everything from backup and cross your fingers. So if they can find it, though, they can hunt down and say, looks like I got through here. Or I found this. They can find a rabbit trail, build a story, if you will. So so tuning that DNS policy is that. So now, any questions with DNS and why we're doing it and how it works? Let's go on to identity policy. So what is identity policy? Anyone here familiar with ICE? I know you guys are. Yeah, ICE, great. Identity Services Engine, integration. So the Cisco Secure Firewall can integrate with a lot of different solutions. One of them is ICE. ICE works like this. So we'll put the firewall thoughts aside for a minute and talk about ICE. What ICE does is there's three ways to get on your physical network infrastructure. Wired, wireless, or VPN, right? So you're going to connect to either wired, and you can control that using 802.1x, right? Maybe your username and password. ICE can do that. Wired, did I say wired or wireless? Anyway, both of those, wired or wireless, both ways. You can control access to your physical network using 802.1x. Certificates, username, password, be very granular about granting access. And also VPN is that other way of getting onto your physical network access. Okay? So when, that's ICE in a very summary nutshell. So also counts for gadgets, IoT devices, whatever, right? How do you get that on the network and keep it narrow? Is for access control. So when ICE is used to control access, that host or user, whatever, they get their little name tag. Hi, this is me. I'm allowed to go here and only here. So that's your identity, if you will, like a driver's license. So that can be passed on then to other security tools can use that identity and base their policies on that identity. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So first we're going to come back to, so in your sort of Windows, what do they call it in Windows? The taskbar down at the bottom. You got your, this guy down there at the bottom, it's the quick launch. And it brings up, so you go in there and you click it on ICE, and let me know when you've done that. So then here is your, you get into your ICE menu and just click to get logged in. This is the ICE menu now. We're not in the FMC anymore, we're looking at ICE. So I'm going to give you the very watered down version of plugging in ICE into your firewall because it's much more complex than this, and give us a ring and we'll help you, okay, basically. But here's just sort of the high level of how you're doing this. We're clicking on administration within ICE and deployment. And once you get your deployment open, that's going to show you all the nodes in your environment. This one has only one node. Don't have only one node in your ICE environment. Always have at least two. But we're going to click right on it so we get to edit it. So you get ICE open here, and then here's the ICE node. And I forget what this column is here, but scroll all the way down. It's sort of in the middle. I didn't put the header up there. I should have. Like services or something. Go clear to the bottom, and you're going to just look and see that PX Grid is turned on. Right? You're not changing anything. You're just noticing that it's on. Thumbs up when you see PX Grid is turned on. Yep. So that's good, meaning that's the service. What all can ICE do? All this stuff, including PX Grid. It's how they pass contextual security information back and forth between security tools. It used to be Cisco proprietary, but they've since opened it up. We'll click on certificates up here in that same one, certificates, and we're going to look in the system certificates and scroll down and just notice that ICE PX Grid is a certificate that is on this ICE system. Now we're switching back over to the FMC. So down there in your taskbar, click that other, or rather the other browser tab. And the other browser tab will take you back to the FMC, right? So we're going, switching out of ICE and going back to FMC. We're done with ICE. Okay? So you see in the FMC, we're going to click on objects, object management. We've been here 3 times now. We're going to scroll down to PKI, and we're going to find internal certs. And when you're in here, we'll see the FMC PX grid. You don't have to edit it. I just got carried away with my red circles. But just look and see that there's an FMC PX grid cert there. So what do we do here? Just like when you go to a website that's HTTPS or TLS, when you go to that site, they say, they present you with their certificate. Here, this is me proving that I am who I am. And this third-party certificate authority is authorizing me, right? Then you open a little tunnel to them. And that's for one-way SSL, right? But for two-way, both sides are giving them their cert. Here's my cert. What's your cert look like? It's TLS. TLS works like that. Oh, well, this is my cert. Okay, so let me see. I got your cert, and I'm already trusting it, and you have my cert, and you're already trusting it, so we can encrypt or pass encrypted traffic back and forth using those certificates. Make sense? Right? Basics of encryption. Yeah. So now that we've got those two systems talking to each other, or trusting each other, we can go all the way over to integrations and select other integrations. And when you go to other integrations, we're going to click on Identity Sources and Identity Services Engine. Okay. When you get to Identity Services Engine, everything's already configured for you. And you can just, you can see that we're subscribing. This is a PX grid thing. You subscribe to what information you want. Just clicking on Test to get that status window. So there's a lot going on here, but let me know when you've gotten to the point where you've tested the ICE connection status and it comes up okay. Good to go. So yeah, so we're just saying, yeah, I can talk to them. Let's go on then to, in that same place, we're going to Realms. Right? So let me see, where was that? It's in the same place. You just click over one to Realms. And in Realms up here, we're going to find the dcloud realm and edit it. Okay? Once we get into the dcloud realm, we're clicking on Directory. And we're not clicking on Add Directory. Mistake here. We're only going to look at it. So click on the pencil. And when you click on the pencil, it'll show you how it's configured, and you click in Test, and it'll say, yes, it works, with the little green indication bar. So now we're saying, yes, I can talk to Active Directory in one more place. So realm configuration here to get you to this point, and you see more information here, and click in Test to say, AD join test succeeded. So we can talk PX grid to pass contextual security information back and forth. The FMC can communicate with your domain via LDAP, right? LDAP's how you enumerate everything. Active Directory is LDAP. So that's how you find users, group membership, printers, resources, whatever is in the Active Directory. So it's saying I can talk to it, and I can actually participate as if I'm an endpoint on that directory, or in Active Directory. Okay. So then we're coming back to users, group users, and sync here. That should be last in this. I'm not sure why it's first. But group users and sync, and you click on Load Groups, and it'll populate this window. Then you're going to include domain users. That's not there. This is a change. So you're including domain users. So you want to say, I want ICE to have visibility to this security group. Now, you can choose whatever security group or groups you want. But there's all kinds of, just Active Directory is fraught with groups that mean nothing. So you may as well keep it clean and just put things in there that are meaningful to you. Domain user is pretty broad, right? Most people, usually everybody's a member of domain users unless you tweaked it up. Well, we've done that, and now we're watching when people log into the Active Directory, authenticate through ICE, 802.1x, or any of the other many ways you can authenticate with ICE. FMC sees it now, visibility. So now we're going to go back to policies. Now that we have all that integration in place, we're going to go to policy and identity and see the NGFW identity policy and edit it. Okay? We're going to go down and we're going to find rules within that policy, and we're going to edit the passive auth rule. Little pencil over there. Okay, so once you're inside of the rules here, just notice that you're referencing that realm that we just configured. Here, everyone here? Anyone not here? We're clicking on zones. And in the zones, we want to specify through which interface. Remember, we can also narrow it down by interface. And I don't remember whether they're already in there or not, or whether you add them. Not that we're specifying. I think these guys are already there. Yeah, so you're just noticing we're going from in to outbound. We don't care about inbound. That doesn't make any sense for identity, right? Only outbound. So you can now set up in your firewall rules to not only see, instead of just, hey, if I look in the logs, this IP address went to this IP address, now you got a username that shows you this user went to this destination. And as well, in your firewall, now you can set rules based on Active Directory group membership. Instead of just these IP addresses can go to these IP addresses through these protocols, you can now say this Active Directory group has access to whatever you want on the outside. Does that make sense? A little more flexibility, kind of a different idea. So SSL policy. The next generation firewall has the ability of being an inline proxy server and can actually decrypt traffic, inspect traffic, re-encrypt it again, and send it on its way. Don't do that, because it is very intense on firewall. Up to 90% of the system resources can be used with SSL encryption. There are better ways of inspecting SSL, which we'll talk about.